Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. It's nice to see everyone here today. Well, not see, but I can feel your energy through the screen. So it's nice to have you all here. As people are trickling in, I just want to say hello to everyone here today. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Just going to give it a few more seconds as people trickle in. But before that, maybe I'll lead us into a land acknowledgement. Sarah, next slide. So just want to take a moment to acknowledge the land that I'm joining from here today. Today I'm joining from Toronto. That belongs to the traditional territory of many nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and Wendat people, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. I want to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. But basically, I really want to just give thanks to the land that we are all able to work on to do this wonderful work. It's a crisp fall day in Toronto today. The trees are lovely colors outside of my window. And if you are able to today, I hope that you can step outside and just enjoy some of the nice brisk weather before we enter extreme snowy periods. Thank you. Next slide. So just some introductions from our end. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Tran. I am a research coordinator with the Reach Nexus team here at the MAP Center for Urban Health Solutions at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. I work on multiple HIV stigma initiatives with our team, including the Positive Actions Initiative here today that we're here today to talk about. I'm also a person living with HIV, and I really try to incorporate that lens into all the stigma work we do here at Reach Nexus. And with that, I'll pass it off to James.
Hello, everybody. My name is James Watson. I'm a research manager here at Reach Nexus and oversee the stigma initiatives and peer initiatives. And I'm calling in from Chesley, Ontario, which is located in Bruce County on the traditional territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. And I'll leave it there and I'll pass it over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Alex and James. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Switzer. I'm a senior researcher at the Center for Community-Based Research, a nonprofit organization committed to community-based, participatory, and action-oriented research and evaluation. We also go by CCBR. So CCBR is located in Waterloo, as located on the traditional territories of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee people, although I personally live in Takaranto. It's covered by Treaty 13. And CCBR has partnered with Reach Nexus to provide evaluation support and coaching for successfully funded positive action teams. And it's been such a joy to work on this project. I've learned so much from past positive action team projects, and thrilled today to share the mic with Alex, Martin, and James. So yeah, I will pass it to Martin.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Martin Rivet. I live in Montreal, Quebec, and I'm a person living with HIV. So I will be introducing you my workshop called Dos Patables later on. So my work in Montreal, I'm a social worker in worker organization at l'AQP Sud. C'est Association québécoise pour la promotion de la santé des utilisateurs de drogue. So we are there to help people who using drugs. That's what we do. And then we have the journal called L'Injecteur. So people write about their what they do with drugs and everything, you know. And we do harm reduction and a lot of different workshop surrounding drugs. Wow.
Thank you, Martin. And I believe James has dropped a message in our chat just for everyone to introduce themselves in the chat and where they're joining in from today. So please go ahead. Next slide. So on today's agenda, we just did our land acknowledgement and some introductions, but we'll first begin today by providing an overview of the Positive Actions Initiative, go over some key concepts related to our initiative, stigma, peer engagement, peer leadership, And then we'll also have a section of today's webinar where we'll walk through the different sections within our proposal. And then finally, we'll end with next steps, and we'll leave a good amount of time for questions as well. So next slide. Right. And so this webinar is being recorded. And so a recording, the link to the recording will be shared after the webinar. And in regards to questions, we just ask that everyone use the Q&A feature for questions here in the Zoom webinar today. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar. Additionally, closed captioning is enabled, so feel free to turn that on or off as needed. And if anybody here on today's webinar has any tech-related questions, you can contact James Watson, who will be available to support. Thanks, James. Next slide. So just want to, see who's here today and sort of see who may have already a positive action in mind. And so we're just going to do a little Slido activity. And to join the activity, what you can do is either scan the QR code with the mobile device. The QR code is on the screen, or you can type in slido.com, again, on your phone, or if you're on a computer, you can open a tab in a browser, and then you can just enter the code on the screen as well to participate. And so the question we have for you is, do you have an anti-stigma positive action in mind already? And I can see that people are already going away at the Slido, which is great. And it's great to see that, some people already have an idea in mind. Some people are maybe thinking of an idea, and, hopefully today's call can offer some more clarity into how you might want to proceed with that idea. So we'll just give it a few moments for more people to participate.
Also, just to add, if you can't participate for any reason, you can drop your answer into chat too.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Alrighty, so yeah, it looks like the majority of people have an idea in mind already. Maybe I'll just give it a few more moments to see if anybody else wants to share. Alrighty, well, for those of you who may still be on the fence, or, just not too sure about the current idea you have, like I said, I hope during today's webinar we can shine a light and provide you more details to help you make that decision. But it looks like most of you have an idea in your head, so that's amazing. That's awesome. Sarah, next slide. So yes, positive actions, the what, the why, and the how. So what are positive actions? Well, next slide. So a positive action is an intervention. They both aim to promote health on a local level, regional, national level, and they also look to address the different factors that impact our health. And they do this primarily by creating some sort of change. After discussions with our community advisory committee, we decided to adopt the term positive actions instead of intervention. And this was mostly because it just fit better with our own visions and values within the team. And so within this initiative, we are mostly looking to create positive actions that reduce HIV stigma, among other goals. Next slide. And so in terms of our goals, in addition to reducing HIV stigma, there are other things that we hope to achieve, right? And so while I go over these goals, I really invite everyone to consider how your potential positive actions may meet either one or even more of these goals. And so the first goal is to change attitudes and behaviors to reduce HIV-related stigma and where it happens. We also look to change stigmatizing practices in healthcare settings, workplaces, and community spaces. We really want to ensure that people living with HIV can access stigma-free and culturally safe services, improve the general health of people living with HIV, but also build the capacity of people living with HIV in and involving themselves in stigma reduction work. And as you'll see throughout this webinar, that's a really core component of positive actions, is really placing people living with HIV in leadership positions and letting them lead the work against stigma. Next slide. And so what does funding look like for positive actions? And so we're looking to fund 3 to 4 positive actions for the year. So that I just realized that the year needs to be updated. So it's for the 2026 to 2027 year, apologies. But 3 to 4 positive actions. The grants are 1 year in length, and each positive action can be funded up to $20,000. And so one other thing that I'd like to mention is that one grant will be specifically dedicated to a positive action with a focus on reducing stigma in healthcare settings. This proposal is still required to go through the appropriate review stages as all other applications, which I'll speak to a bit later in this webinar. But that is to say, if we receive no submissions in this category, or if a submission does not pass the review in this category, we will still be funding 3 to 4 positive actions overall. Next slide. So just some key ideas related to positive actions. And first, we'll just start off with HIV stigma. Next slide. So I'm sure many of you here today are familiar with stigma, its effects on health, these different dimensions of stigma. But for those who may not be too familiar, HIV stigma refers to the negative attitudes and beliefs directed towards people living with HIV that significantly discredits them in the eyes of others. And so breaking this down further, there are 3 types of stigma that I would like to go over. The first being enacted stigma. And so this really just refers to direct acts of discrimination or stereotyping because of someone's HIV status. For example, people have backed away from me when I tell them I have HIV, or I was refused services at this healthcare setting because of my HIV status. Anticipated stigma is another dimension of stigma we look at. So this refers to the expectation that others will treat you badly because of your status. And so this can be something like, I worry that people may judge me when they learn I have HIV. I worry that this person won't want to date me or get into a relationship with me when they learn I have HIV. So sentiments like that. And then lastly, we also have internalized stigma. And so this is oneself agreeing with the negative thoughts or beliefs that society has sort of attributed to HIV. And so these can be feelings of shame, worthlessness, or guilt. Statements like having HIV makes me feel unclean, stuff like that. And so, next slide. And so we just have another Slido activity here again. For anyone that may have just joined, feel free to scan the QR code or type in slido.com and enter the code on the webpage as well, or type into the chat. But we're really curious to hear what kind of stigma people's potential positive actions hope to address. And so on the screen, we have physical health and stigma, mental health and stigma, accessing healthcare and stigma, social relationships and stigma, or maybe the positive action you have in mind sort of touches across all these domains. So yeah, we'll just give it some time for people to fill it out. All of the above seems to be the winner so far. I'm curious what these ideas are now. Is there anything in the chat? And yes, James, thank you for putting that. The slides will be shared after the webinar. Alrighty, so maybe we'll give it a few seconds. But it looks like for the most part, all of the above seems to be the popular response. And so there will be another activity in a bit where you can describe a bit about the idea you have. So I'm really curious once we get there to see what everyone has cooking up in their heads. But thank you all for participating in this Slido. Next slide. Thank you. So the next thing I want to talk about is peer engagement and leadership. And so this is really another key component of positive actions. And so we are defining peers as people living with HIV who are hired into roles where their lived experience is essential to the work. And most importantly, peer engagement should be meaningful to the person and to the project, not thought of as an afterthought to everything. And so what does this look like? A few ways on what this might look like is to ask people what their interests are, what skills they want to develop, what skills they would like to utilize and bring to the project. Secondly, to support peers to take on leadership roles in the positive actions, involve peers in decision-making processes. Not only that, but throughout the life cycle of the positive action as well. And one of the most important parts to avoid tokenizing people living with HIV. Goes back to my earlier thought of, not really, do not think of people living with HIV sort of as an afterthought and really, include them in all processes of the positive action from idea generation, brainstorming, implementation, evaluation, knowledge sharing, throughout the whole process, really. Next slide. And so peers can really be engaged in a multiple of ways. For example, through a committee. And so people living with HIV can be used to guide the development and implementation of your positive actions. And really supporting peers as committee members can give you access to a group of experts who can validate and guide the project using the lived experience. Peers can also be engaged as team members. So these are such as paid employees in leadership positions or other staff positions like coordinators, research assistants, project managers. But no matter the position, it's recommended that peers be financially and equitably compensated for their contributions as well. Peers can also be involved as evaluators. This way that ensures that your positive action is assessing the outcomes that matter most to people living with HIV, and that it's respected and appropriate. Knowledge sharing activities, training peers to share information via workshops, webinars, or other creative ways can leverage the skills of people living with HIV and help to build capacity. And also other roles. So there might be some specialized roles in your project that might be required for a temporary basis, such as a graphic designer, a branding consultant, social media strategist. But in all of that, hiring peers in these roles is an excellent way of promoting the work of people living with HIV. Next slide. So on this side, I will speak to a few points related to peer leadership. And so really centering peers in leadership positions helps to sort of reinforce JIPA and MIPA and put that into motion. Through peer leadership, we're really able to enhance the capacity of people living with HIV. And not only that, but develop their skills in public speaking and project management and, amongst a multitude of things. This point is one of my favorites. Its leadership does not always have to be at the front, and I think that is very true. Leadership can look like a lot of things, but I think, just making sure that you sort of discuss with people living with HIV in your positive action on how they want to be engaged and how they want to, build their own skills throughout the life cycle of the positive action is really important to sort of creating this leadership plan of sorts in a way. And then lastly, ensuring principles of equity are considered when supporting and fostering peer leadership are important as well. Next slide. So on this screen here, we have 3 of the positive actions that are funded for the current year. But with that, I will turn it over to Martin to give us an overview of the project that Dopamine is currently doing. Martin, over to you.
Hello, hello. So at Dopamine, first of all, Dopamine is an organization in the east of Montreal, and it's a day center for people struggling with drugs. They can do a vaccination test, all the tests that you want to do, you can do there. There is there is a doctor's once a month, not a doctor, sorry, an infirmière, and so that's it, and that's what they do at this place. I started what I call dope à table. Why dope à table? Because it's a supper. We call it supper. It's a supper. It's most of the English people call it a D&D, huh? Dinner and discussion. So it's around the stigma of HIV. So it's a once a month, and we do ourselves the supper. We cook it. We cook it together, but we have a cook. Okay, he does the part, but we do all the cooking together because we want to be involved in this, and then while we are cooking, we are speaking together, and we are together. Because the objective, the first objective is to bring people out of their home, not their home, but to bring people together, because all those people, they feel alone. They really feel alone, and that's a big part of the health issues, because when you're alone, you really you have a lot of stress, and you think you're alone, and you're the only one with struggling with those problems. So when we put together people, they really are. Let's go. You understand what I mean. So so it's a one supper per month. People struggling. So they're all people living with HIV. Uh, Most of them, all of my person, they have no homes. They are homeless. A few of them are, but all of them we have no money. They're all so, maybe it's one one of them. I'll say, sorry, I'm kind of nervous. Huh? You can notice that I'm not English. So hello. What I want to say is, so they all struggling with drugs and HIV, and they all living with stigma. Well, the supper, what we do, we try to give ourselves some tricks to how to respond when someone stigmatized you, and how to be a positive person in the society. I try to get rid of them, all the anger that they live every day, because this anger brings a lot of health issue also. So I trying to, so that's why all those discussion, we try always to bring the positive action that they can do in their everyday life, as a HIV person, as a homeless person, whatever. So it's about that. As maybe as forget something, or maybe you didn't understand. I'm ready for the question.
Thank you, Martin. I think you did a great job, and I always am so happy to hear about the ongoing work being done in dopamine. So thank you. And yes, if anyone has questions for Martin, you can feel free to enter that in the Q&A, and we can definitely talk about those at the end of the webinar. Thank you, Martin. I just want to talk a bit about the other two positive actions as well. And so we have one from Nine Circles Community Health Center and out of Winnipeg or Manitoba. And so what they're doing is they're creating a bingo game to educate people and reduce HIV stigma within First Nations communities in Manitoba. And then we also have a positive action from SafeLink Alberta this year. And what they're doing is they're creating a graphic novel to tell real authentic stories from people living with HIV. And so really this is to share more authentic stories and real lived experiences, and to hopefully help other people living with HIV navigate their stigma through this interactive creative medium. And more information on these projects can also be found on our webpage under the Meet Our Funded Positive Action section. And I believe James will drop a link in a moment in the chat, if not already. Next slide. And so I also just want to take a moment to highlight our amazing e-module. I might be biased, that we developed. And so it really covers all the key elements that I was speaking about earlier regarding stigma, peer leadership, peer engagement, compensating peers, alongside many other topics. And so I highly suggest that everybody take some time to check that out when you can. And again, I think James will be dropping a link in the chat to that as well. Next slide. Alrighty, so this next bit of our webinar will be a walkthrough of the different sections of the proposal. But before that, Slido activity, next slide, right? Yeah. So this Slido activity, we're asking, if you have a positive action in mind, we would love to hear about it. And so we're asking you to describe the essence of your positive actions in 7 words or less, or, around 7 words is okay, don't worry. So such as podcasts with people living with HIV, peer-led support. Yeah, I'm curious what you all have going on in your heads. So again, you can scan the QR code or enter the website and code somewhere else, or type it in the chat. But yes, I'll give everyone some time to type in their answers. That's really interesting. Certified courses for healthcare providers. I know from previous conversations I've had that that's a big incentive for training for healthcare providers. So that's very interesting. Arts-based stigma reflection and storytelling. Yes, yes. I always love hearing about arts-based methods. A theater to address stigma among youth populations. That's really cool. Peer engaged art-based program with formerly incarcerated people living with HIV. That's good. So far I'm seeing a lot of arts-based things, which is always cool to see. I always enjoy reading through those submissions as well. I see some more people are typing as well. Afrocentric based healing circles. These ideas are also interesting. Elevate, empowering lived experience voices to advance tolerance and equity, women and gender diverse development, peer-led tools. Nice. I see some more participants are typing here. I'll just give it a minute or two just to see what else comes in, and then I'll move on. Theater-led workshops to reduce and address stigma among youth. So these are all great ideas, and I'm looking forward to reading them, should people apply, and I hope you do. If anyone else has anything else to share, feel free to drop it in the chat. Yeah, Sarah, you can go ahead. Thank you. So the first section in our proposal is, well, the introduction. And so really, this is to help the review committee to determine if your positive action has been implemented in other settings, if it's totally new, and really a place for you to provide background information so that the review committee can understand the need of the proposed project and how it contributes to reducing HIV stigma and also addressing, any other issues that you're hoping to tackle as well. One thing that I want to suggest is to note specifically down in this section any gaps that your positive action will aim to address, as that'll be really important for the review committee. And also in this section, please write down the specific goals of your positive action as well. Next slide. So your positive action plan. And so this is the section of the template where you will write down the proposed design of your positive action. So will you be hosting workshops, creating support groups, developing, a theater program, creating educational materials, essentially, what are you doing? How are you doing it? This is the place to let the review committee know. In our proposal template, you'll also be asked to specify which key populations your positive action hopes to engage with. One piece of advice I can give is to be realistic and be feasible. Sometimes we receive applications that, select all key populations, which, that might apply, but out of the times, we really encourage people to think clearly on to, realistically, within this time frame, who are we able to engage effectively? And then lastly, in this section, we also want to know of any existing partnerships or any new partnerships that you hope to create through your positive action. Next slide. So just some more things related to this part. The first being intersectionality. And so for those who are not familiar, intersectionality is a framework that takes into the account and the intersection of different identities that you might hold. And so my experience of living with HIV is not the same as someone else's, just due to the fact that we are two different people. And so in your positive action, we really ask people to take that into account and state how you hope to incorporate an intersectional framework in your work as well. Next, please indicate how your positive action will incorporate an in-person, face-to-face element, as that's an important feature, important thing to consider for your positive action as well. And then lastly, please describe where you hope your positive action reduces stigma. And so, like I said, in healthcare settings, out in the community, between interpersonal relationships, so between people, or if the main focus is to reduce internalized stigma. That is something to note in this section. Next slide. Peer engagement plan. So again, just want to place an emphasis that the review committee will be looking for people living with HIV in leadership positions. We want these positive actions to be peer-led. And so when writing your proposal, it should be explained clearly as to how peers will be leaders and how their capacity will be built to become leaders as well. And so we also ask that you describe how you plan to recruit peers or any training and support that you will provide to peers and other members of your team. And then lastly, in this section, please also remember to clearly explain the roles and responsibilities of peers and other members of your team involved in the positive action as well. So regarding the work plan, so really what we're looking for in this section, or what the review committee is looking for, is outlining the different activities that will take place. And so making sure that you explain how each activity contributes to the goals that you hope to achieve in your positive action, what success looks like, but also including a timeline of each activity in your positive action, as that'll be really helpful for the review committee to gauge sort of feasibility as well. And then lastly, to also remember to assign roles to each identified activity. Next slide. So with evaluation, I will now turn it over to Sarah to lead us through this section.
Thanks, Alex. So I'm going to chat a little bit about REACH's evaluation for this particular project and how it also relates to the proposal that you're submitting. So this particular project, the Positive Actions Project, is funded by the Public Health Agency of Canada, which requires positive action projects to complete an evaluation on the positive actions. We also want to do evaluation because it's helpful to learning and growth, right? So REACH is going to be leading the evaluation of the positive actions, although the Center for Community-Based Research, we provide evaluation support. So to get a bit of an idea around kind of what the evaluation is on, the REACH core evaluation really examines experiences of HIV stigma and experiences of participating in and leading the positive action. The REACH evaluation will also collect demographic information, so information on race, gender, HIV status, etc., for positive action participants and team members. So, in order to meet these evaluation goals, once funded, positive action teams will work with REACH, vis-a-vis Alex, who you have just met, to do the following. So we'll be conducting surveys with positive action participants, and surveys will ask questions about demographics, changes in experience of HIV stigma, cultural safety, and overall health, as well as changes in leadership capacity. As Alex meant, one of the key goals of the Positive Action Initiative is really to enhance peer leadership. We'll also be carrying out surveys with team members. We'll ask team members the same questions, as well as questions about team member roles, the project's impact, so on and so forth. Finally, once the positive action is wrapped up and funded projects have done amazing work in local communities, we'll conduct a focus group with team members to reflect on your team's positive action and the difference it made. We'll ask you how we can improve support to positive action teams in the future so we can continue to make changes to the larger positive action project along the way. And we've already made lots of changes to the program based on this important feedback with past teams. So this is a really important process for us as well. Now, in addition to REACH's core evaluation, project teams are encouraged to consider adding their own evaluation questions and methods to the evaluation that are unique to their project. So this is where your team's evaluation comes in. And in the proposal, you'll be asked to kind of think through this a little bit. The application will ask you to consider what questions you want to explore as part of your positive action specific evaluation. And just to be really clear, these questions are separate from the REACH core evaluation we mentioned earlier. So let's break this down a little bit. Evaluation can be a really helpful way to reflect on what's working well or not working well in a positive action. It can help capture the impact of a project for your own learning and for future program funding opportunities. And given this, we really want to encourage you to reflect on what you may want to learn as teams as you roll out your positive action. So drawing on kind of the Slido that we did before, a lot of folks on the call are really interested in arts-based methods. As an example, arts-based, like there's someone mentioned a theater program, and then there's a peer-led arts program that was also mentioned with folks living with HIV who were previously incarcerated. Those are just two examples that I saw come up on the screen. There were many, right? So your project may have very specific questions you want to explore about the role of the arts in doing anti-stigma work, for example. All right. Now, this does not have to be a big evaluation. In fact, we really encourage you to start small. Now, you can think of evaluation in two buckets for folks that are newer to evaluation. Process evaluation, so really thinking about the implementation of your positive action, the activities, what's working well, what's not working so well, or outcome evaluation, studying the impact that it had. What difference did it make at the end of the project? And when planning your positive action, you might consider meeting with, team members and, folks in the community to really reflect on what you want to learn together. So it's actually useful and it has use value to your project. Now, I'm going to give you two very quick examples just to show you how kind of simple this really can be. So Martine earlier from Dopamine talked about the monthly suppers that are being hosted kind of every month with folks living with HIV to talk about HIV stigma and other related issues. And in addition to the REACH kind of core survey, as well as some of the other tools, folks on the Dopamine project wanted to collect some information in an ongoing way. They wanted to know what meals to make, what food to serve. They wanted to ask, well, what are the monthly topics people wanted to discuss real time, right? So folks weren't coming up with a plan totally at the beginning, but actually consulting community members throughout to change the program and change the positive action. So that was a key part of their evaluation. And it was small and it was built into the ongoing kind of running of the dinners. Alternatively, last year, REACH funded a digital storytelling project by United Voices of HIV Alberta. And they were funded to run digital storytelling workshops with folks living with HIV. And we asked lots of great questions in the REACH survey about HIV stigma, about cultural safety, about peer leadership, but we certainly didn't ask anything about digital storytelling, right? And so one of the things that they did is they hosted a focus group that they built in and connected it to one of their screenings to start conversations about the role of sharing stories and storytelling when combating HIV stigma. All right. So really, it can be as small as that. It can be really manageable, but still quite impactful. And that allowed them to explore some impact-related questions. So once you know what you're interested in learning, you want to consider your methods, how you're going to go about answering these questions. And for those of you new to evaluation, that's okay. This Positive Action Project really wants to also support really grassroots projects that are doing this for the first time. So there's two types of methods, really simply. So there's quantitative methods where data is collected and analyzed numerically, so numbers are applied. And these methods are designed like surveys to capture trends, right? Take, for example, the survey that REACH is going to roll out. We're going to ask the same questions to many, many, many people over many years, right? And when we're doing the Reach survey for funded teams, we'll actually ask each of the teams, are there any questions you want to add to the survey that are specific to your project? So that's one way we can help you with your evaluation. You might want to also consider qualitative methods. So there might be a focus group you want to run. If you're doing an art-based workshop, there might be an arts-based component, right? In order to capture larger questions about so what and why and how. Qualitative methods are designed to go deep, right? To collect stories in a way. So there's lots of different options for building in evaluation into your project. And if you're new to evaluation, that's okay. We're here to help. You can check out the evaluation section of the Positive Action e-module for more information. I believe James has already popped it into chat, but if not, we can put it in again, and it's also on the Positive Actions website. You can reach out in advance of the deadline to Alex, who is available to support teams in all parts of the proposal, including evaluation. And for funded teams, the Center for Community-Based Research will provide community-based evaluation training and coaching throughout to help you as you move along your evaluation journey. So over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Sarah. So that brings us to, I believe, the final section of the proposal, which is the budget. And so we are asking that teams provide a budget breakdown, including itemized expenses, income sources, and so that is positive action funding. But in addition to other in-kind contributions that your team may be seeking or have already sought out. And so the review committee will be asking for a justification for each itemized expense as well. And I believe the next slide will show, yes. So this slide, we have drafted just a draft budget on potentially what your budget template may look like. It does not have to look like this. I'm sure there are other budget templates online that you can use, but the important thing to keep in mind is to sort of break things out by categories, the dollar value, and also the justification as well. And so I also know that budgets can be challenging. So if anyone requires support, again, feel free to contact me with any questions you may have. My info will be up just in a few slides. But one thing that I did want to mention about the budget, just a piece of advice, is to really be mindful and be mindful of the percentage of funds sort of directed to support activities for people living with HIV. Ensuring that a good amount of the budget is for that. Budgets that include a higher proportion directed to administrative or overhead costs are typically not well ranked by the review committee, as the review committee pays particular attention to this split of funds. And so that would be my one piece of advice for the budgets. Next slide, please. Right, and so just some next steps. So in regards to timelines, the proposal for this year will be January 16th, 2026, 5 p.m. Eastern. Following your submission, it will undergo a relevance review. And so this is essentially just a quick review to ensure that your proposal aligns with the goals of the Positive Actions Initiative. And if the reviewers have any questions or points of clarification, they will reach out to you and you will be given a chance to answer said questions to clarify anything. And the results of the relevance review will be made known by the end of January. And for those that pass the relevance review, the submission will go on to the full review. And so this is where your proposal will undergo an in-depth review by multiple review committee members. And after the review concludes, we will aim to provide a notification of these results by the end of February. And for successful teams, the Positive Action has an estimated start date of April of 2026 and the one-year term ending sometime in March 2027. I will also mention that we have a scoring rubric that is available on the website as well for download, and I believe in a few slides we'll drop it into the chat as well. Next slide. So yes, how to submit. You can submit the proposal by just returning the template with completed answers. Like I said, the scoring rubric, the proposal template, And also our funding overview document is available for download on the Positive Actions webpage. The e-module mentioned earlier is also a great resource for your proposal. And my piece of advice for this would be get started on it as soon as you can, just jotting down ideas here and there. I know the holiday season can get busy for a lot of people, and so yeah, just starting as early as you can, and to get in touch with me if you have any questions while you're filling out the template as well. I'm available at any time through email. If you want, we could even set up a meeting as well. But yeah, recording of this webinar will be made available on our website at a later date. Communication will also be sent out when that has happened. And with that, I will pass it over to James to help moderate our Q&A section. So please, everyone, if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A and we will answer as best as we can.
Yes, I'm coming. Just adding things into the chat appropriately. Here we go. Right. Okay. I see no Q&A, questions here. Most people were asking about the slides and if they can get copies of them so they don't have to take notes. And I encourage that behavior. So, but I don't see any questions yet. I did put in the documents that you can download, or go to the link here where you can download the proposal submission template and the scoring rubric and the overview. So 25 people here with no questions. But there you are. That's how clear you were, Sarah.
Oh, I see a question. It says,
there we
will
go.
teams be notified if they're successful in the relevance review stage? Yes, so teams will be notified by that end of January deadline.
Can we apply as of now?
I mean,
Patients is asking.
yes. All the materials are up there, and so you're free to start your submission. And if you do finish, way earlier than that January deadline, like, you can still submit that to me, no problem at all. Yeah.
Okay. So
I have a question.
Anybody else?
I have a question for Martin or possibly Alex or James while we're waiting other questions. I'm curious for Martin, having gone through the process and now you have your positive action is funded. Do you have any tips for others as they're dreaming up their positive action?
Yes, keep on going. Well, first after the two first suppers, I said, "Hey, it's well done. Everybody will come back. I have nothing to do more." At the third supper, we had only 2 person. So never give up. Never think that you end your thing. You always have to work. I forgot that the community that I work with, they're not used to be always in a routine. They have no routine, so it's really hard. So we always have to to bring them, to pick them. So always work, always work. Well, that's my conseil.
Good point. There's a question in the chat here. Is it helpful to provide letters of support with our application?
It'll be attached to your what is it, like, proposal package, I guess is a good way of saying it, to the review committee. In no means is it necessary, but if you have letters of support that you want to share with your proposal, feel free to go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, it's not required, but you're welcome to. Okay.
Well, if there are no more questions for now, you're free to, I'll just type my email into the chat actually, just so it's there on the record as well. Feel free to send me an email at any time, and we can take it from there. But I really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their busy schedules to attend today's webinar. I really look forward to seeing all the submissions that come in. Thank you, Martin, for being here and sharing your experience with dopamine as well. And after you leave the webinar, I believe there will be a short survey just to see who we're reaching and see how we can improve on these as well. And so with that, I thank you all for being here today, and I wish you a lovely day. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
I'll stop the recording.